Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Amparo and this is Luna. Today's video, I wanted to talk about boundaries in publishing, specifically the boundaries that we set for ourselves as authors or writers who are seeking publication when it comes to social media. So there are two types of boundaries that I want to talk about, the professional boundaries and the personal boundaries. She's scratching. So boundaries in publishing are very important, as you know, because we as human beings need to care about our well-being. We need to care. What are you doing? Do you not want to be on camera? When we talk about boundaries in publishing, we are essentially talking about how we allow ourselves to communicate and engage with others who may or may not know who we really are. And if you remember my previous video about agents and authors being people, just being people, there are professional boundaries and personal boundaries. When it comes to being a professional author, you will be asked to do certain things to promote your work or to get ahead in your career, and you don't have to do everything that you're asked if you don't feel comfortable doing it. Of course, if you've never done something, for example, if you are a debut author and you're about to launch a pre-order campaign, not every author not every author has pre-order campaigns. And even if two authors have pre-order campaigns, they will not be the same. They will not be offering the same incentives because it is all about understanding what you feel comfortable sharing and what you don't feel comfortable sharing. Remember, as a professional, you are not necessarily going to be the same person throughout your career because let's say you start writing in a specific genre. But later on, you change genres, and that is completely fine. You are still you. You are still the author that we know and love, hopefully. Boundaries as a professional author or as an aspiring author are hard to limit sometimes because you are a public figure. As an author or as a writer or someone with social media, a social media account, you are a public figure, meaning that everything you post will be consumed by the general public. Even if your following is small, even if you don't have a lot of followers or subscribers or whatever it is, people will see what you have to say or see what you're doing with your life as a professional, and they will start getting ideas of who you are. The image that you are putting out there for yourself is the same image that in most cases your audience will have of you as an author or as a writer. Of course, your branding also comes along with your actual work, which is the most important part of your image as an author, is your work, what you've written, what you're writing, or what you wish to write in the future. And boundaries are important because when you want to only promote all the time, especially leading up to release, that can be problematic because you don't want to burn out. You don't want to get to this point where you feel like you are sacrificing rest, you're sacrificing your peace of mind to sell a book. And also, burnout is one of the most worrisome things or one of the most worrisome parts about being a professional author or having a social media following, because you feel that this need to be on at all times. You feel the need to constantly network and constantly broaden your horizons when it comes to what you can do to improve your career and to further yourself in this world. But you also need to understand that just because XYZ author is doing something that works for them, it doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. So I would say, in terms of the boundaries that we have in publishing when it comes to being a professional author, just understand that we all have different ways of living our lives as professionals. We all have different things to say. Some of us do have the utmost respect for our audience, and other people, I will not get into that right now, but you know that there are some questionable people out there who use their platforms to do harm. And this is where, you as an individual comes in, you as a person, because who you are as a public figure, as the author of XYZ books, you are the face of a specific story, And the story actually represents you in some way or to some extent, because even if you're nothing like your main character or you've never lived through what your character lives through, these experiences are all fictional and not inspired by real life events. That will always be part of your brand as a creator. But that doesn't mean that you should seek opportunities just because they're there. It's very important for you to understand that we are not losing if we don't do everything. There are publishing houses that support and encourage authors to do so much work when it comes to marketing their book. And one of the most insightful and enlightening reads of this year so far is Kacen Callender's article or blog post on branding, and I will be linking to it below because it is just genius. And I love that people were talking about this because we are not, as authors, we are still human beings. And it is quite interesting how the concept of gaslighting, which is something that Kacen discusses at length in their post, and other people, Michelle Shusterman has a wonderful video as well on her channel. I believe Alexa Dunn also talks about this, and I'm going to be linking to their videos below. But gaslighting is something that is very common. And the problem is that you don't know it's happening sometimes. You don't understand that you're being told to do things that you don't necessarily have to do. Problematic aspect of this is that you feel guilty if you are not doing everything that others are doing. But even if it's boundaries in terms of your actual writing schedule, you don't have to write every day if you don't want to write every day or you don't feel like it. You don't have to tweet about your productivity if you don't feel like it. People sometimes they feel like if they're not writing as much as XYZ author any given day, they will feel like they're less than. And that's where you need to limit your time on social media. That's where you need to limit your time looking at what others are doing. Because if you're comparing yourself to others, you are actually doing a disservice to who you are as a professional. It's very important to remember that we're not all capable of the same things, and there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to be like someone else just because they're selling this amount of books or they have this amount of followers or whatever it is. It just doesn't work that way. And I feel like it's important for publishing to allow their authors boundaries, healthy, productive boundaries that ensure that the work will be done or will get done. Because if we're all being treated the same way, like we're cogs in a machine and that we have to produce all the time, it doesn't help anyone. Like, the work will suffer, the quality of the work and the quality of life of that author will suffer. And no one wants to read a terrible book. I personally don't want to read a terrible book. I mean, I have read terrible books, but they've been promised as not terrible. So that's where the confusion comes from. So yeah, I love how Luna is just like chilling in the back. Luna. There's this attitude sometimes that we owe certain facts about ourselves to the people who are following us and the people who shell out money, if they have it, to purchase our books, or people who click the follow button and they are expecting to know every single detail about your life just because you have a social media platform and there is a book out there with your name on the cover, or there will be a book out there with your name on the cover. Alright, so Luna gets more screen time now. That's good for her. She's living her best life. Alright, so as a private person, you have boundaries. As a private person, you have boundaries that you should also respect and acknowledge and have others know about them as well. For example, if you have your DMs open on Instagram or Twitter or wherever, people can comment on anything, ranging from your actual work to even your appearance or your political views or anything that you've chosen to share online. And if you don't share anything online, because that's something that you should also be aware of, if your boundaries include not stating anything regarding your personal life, there's this idea that everything you put out to the public is fair game, but also the things you don't share are fair game too. And this is where your private persona versus your public persona comes into play. because there are things that you owe to yourself not to share because you don't feel comfortable sharing them. There are things that only you should know. There are things that should stay in the group chat or in the DMs. There are things that you simply just haven't told anyone because you're not ready to talk about those things. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. But there is this constant, I don't want to say worry because it's not a worry, but there's an obsession almost, or like a desire to know absolutely everything about an author. This goes back to the parasocial relationships that I was talking about a couple of videos ago. And it's all about the image that you are trying to sell about yourself, because everything that is out for public consumption isn't necessarily everything there is to know. I have this thing on Twitter where I only accept DMs from people that I already follow, and there are other authors who completely close their DMs. There are other authors who will not interact with replies even. They're trying to safeguard or protect their mental health and their joy. I really hate the fact that people have to compare each other, and the people have to say, well, you know, this author writes 3 books or publishes 3 books a year, and this other author publishes 1 book every 3 years. That's not right, you know, authors owe us this or authors owe us that. Sometimes there are truths that they are not going to share with you because they don't know you, and that's something that we need to remember. What you see online is something that is highly curated. That does not mean that an author owes you everything about them. To end this belief or this demand that if an author isn't talking about something that's deeply personal, whether it's something that is touched upon in their work or not, they can give it to you if they wish to give it to you. Even if we're all paid millions of dollars to write books, we are still different people with different brands as authors and with different lifestyles as individuals. So it's important to remember what someone is giving you is what you get. You do not deserve more than what that person is giving you. I just think that there are ways to show your support and your interest, and we can't all give you the same things. We cannot perform the same ways, and we cannot interact with other people in the same ways. So it's important to understand what we are capable of doing and what we actually enjoy doing, because maybe we're capable of doing a lot of things. Maybe that balance between author and individual is seamless. Some people just cannot answer emails, for example, like that. Some people answer emails days, weeks, months later. Some people answer immediately or a couple of minutes later or a couple of hours later. It's going to depend on so much, and most of these things, these factors that play into how productive or how sociable an author is, you don't know those factors. You are just privy to what they are allowing you to know and to see. We guarantee or we ensure better treatment from both sides if we respect one another and we treat each other as people instead of objects or cogs in the machine. I'm very curious to see what you think about this, so any questions that you may have or any comments that you may have, please leave them below. And thank you so much for watching this video. I didn't intend it to be so ranty, but sometimes I have a rant in me. Do you have anything to add? No? Luna has nothing to add. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, evening, whenever it is that you're watching this video. Please remember to like and subscribe if you already haven't. I will see you in the next video. Stay awesome, everyone. Bye!